Γεια σας και καλώς ήρθατε στο euronews. Σε νέα φάση έχει περάσει η απάντηση του Ισραήλ απέναντι στις επιθέσεις της Χαμάς της 7ης Οκτωβρίου, ενώ έχει συμπληρωθεί ήδη ένας μήνας από εκείνη την ημέρα που ένοπλοι της Χαμάς πήραν πάνω από 200 ομήρους, οι επιδρομές του Ισραηλινού στρατού εντατικοποιούνται. Για τον στόχο των Ισραηλινών επιχειρήσεων σε αυτή τη φάση, καθώς και για τις παράπλευρες απώλειες αυτών των επιχειρήσεων, συζητούμε με τον εκπρόσωπο του Ισραηλινού στρατού, αντισυνταγματάρχη Peter Lerner. Hello and thank you for joining us. 1 month after the attack of Hamas against Israel, where do you stand operationally?
Thank you. The IDF is moving forward, pursuing Hamas and pursuing our mission to destroy and dismantle the terrorist organization, a terrorist entity that built a terrorist army and conducted the most ruthless, merciless attack against Israel since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. We are moving closer and closer to our goals, destroying Hamas's infrastructure, taking down terrorists, engaging and killing the terrorists wherever they are hiding. It is a huge feat. Of course, this is a war that we did not choose, but a war we are determined to win.
Which kind of resistance do you face entering Gaza right now?
So we are facing ongoing rocket attacks against Israel, of course, where there are over 7,500 rockets fired at Israeli population all the time. Each one of those is a double war crime intended to kill Israeli civilians, launched from Gaza civilian areas. We are moving forward and engaging them on the ground. And indeed, we have found face-to-face urban warfare activities. They're hiding in tunnels, they're hiding behind UN facilities, they're hiding in mosques, they're conducting attacks against our tanks based on rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs, or anti-tank guided missiles. And indeed, we are watching, moving forward very cautiously, very carefully, stage by stage, and I would say strike by strike, because it is all accompanied, from our perspective, a terrorist organization that has been trained extensively and has been planning for this day. And so we are determined to dismantle them step by step.
Which is your objective in this phase? And do you have any information? Have you located the hostages?
We are moving forward. So we have completed the encirclement of Gaza City, and we're moving in closer and closer. Gaza City is a center of gravity, a center of control, the hub of Hamas's terror organization. And that is why we are moving in on Gaza. That is the center of their activities. And indeed, that we have to make sure that they have no ability to launch such attacks, such atrocities against us ever again. Regarding the hostages, of course, it is a very sensitive issue, so I can't go into too much details. But what I would say is that the hostages are a top priority of the IDF. We're utilizing all of the tools at our disposal in order to bring them home safe and sound. Of course, there is a diplomatic effort that is also ongoing. And Israel has said very clearly we expect them to be released safely. We've demanded that the International Committee of the Red Cross have access in order to assess the well-being of the hostages. We have rescued one hostage, Ori Megidish, just over a week ago, and that signifies our intent, and indeed we intend on bringing the hostages home. That too will not necessarily be an easy feat, but it is definitely a top priority of the IDF.
We have seen scenes of civilians and children being brought to Palestinian hospitals. As you enter Gaza City, as you advance, which is your plan to protect civilians and children especially as you advance?
The images coming out of Gaza are a true tragedy for the people of Gaza. It is the failure of Hamas's leadership that has brought this reality on the people. And what we are trying to do is to limit the civilian casualties. We've been evacuating and calling on evacuation now for over 3 weeks, telling people to leave the north precisely to get them out of harm's way. It is Hamas that have been trying to intimidate them, prevent them, and even physically put up barriers to prevent people from leaving the northern Gaza Strip. We have seen a huge evacuation, but still there are people, and we're still today encouraging people to move down south to get out of harm's way. These images are heartbreaking. They are the images of war, and a war that Israel never initiated, did not want to conduct. I would say even in the effort that Hamas went in order to conceal, we miscalculated Hamas's intentions. And this is why the paradigm needs to change. The people, the children, the families in Gaza that are suffering, they have to demand accountability from Hamas, from their leadership that has failed them miserably. We will go out of our way to limit civilian casualties, while Hamas will repeatedly do everything in order to increase civilian casualties on their side. They have openly said that if that the civilian casualties from their part are just one part of the plan of liberation. They've repeatedly said that they will not give access to the tunnels for the people because the tunnels are for the terrorist activities, for the attacks. And they've repeatedly said that given the chance to conduct a October 7th again, they would do so. So Israel is left basically with only one option: to remove Hamas once and for all.
Palestinians and humanitarian organizations say that the Israeli army is targeting hospitals. How do you comment?
We've exposed extensively and shared with the international media, and I hope you will share it with your viewers, how Hamas is using hospitals as command and control bases, how they've utilized specific hospitals, such as Al Sīfa hospital or the Qatari hospital in the north, in order to conduct and launch attacks, but also to use them as bases of operations, command and control centers. This is precisely the modus operandi of how Hamas operates. They have no regard for humanitarian symbols, and they are doing so by jeopardizing the civilian population that need the humanitarian aid, that need humanitarian assistance. So I would say, first of all, it's a fact that Hamas are utilizing hospitals. It's a fact that they are jeopardizing the protection of hospitals in their actions. But it's also a fact that we are calling, even till today, on people in these hospitals to use the ambulance services, to go south, to take a refuge in other places and go to hospitals in the south, because we intend on taking Hamas out. We intend on making sure that they cannot utilize this power of government, utilize the tools that they had accumulated over the last 16 years to conduct this most atrocious act of violence against Israel under the cover of international and humanitarian symbols.
And what will happen with the people inside the hospitals that cannot move? For example, babies in incubators or people that are in coma state.
The ambulance services in Gaza are up and running. We've seen extensive ambulance movement, and indeed everybody can be moved. That it needs to be done in caution, and it can be done in coordination. When we're calling the international humanitarian organizations, asking them to facilitate this, they need to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. By saying they can't be moved is playing into Hamas's hands. By saying that they can't be moved from one place to another is giving Hamas a free pass to continue to use hospitals as a staging ground. This is the problem. This is the challenge we face.
The UN have asked for humanitarian aid corridors. Do you see this happening?
So there is humanitarian aid going into Gaza every single day. Almost 100 truckloads of food supplies, of medical supplies going in. This is part of our operations. We see the humanitarian mission as part of our operation. And indeed, we've designated an area in the southwest of the Gaza Strip, the Mawasi area, as a humanitarian zone. And we are continuing to conduct coordination with the humanitarian organizations, the international humanitarian organizations operating in Gaza, in order to facilitate and assess together the situation and address the different needs that arise. Of course, the situation in the south is a dire situation. It is not easy to be in Gaza today. And yes, the humanitarian operation needs to be part of the military operation. But a humanitarian pause or humanitarian ceasefire cannot be addressed without the release of hostages. It is a clear message from our government that this is part and parcel of the solution. And indeed, if there is the ability to move forward on this issue, it would not be under the realm of the IDF, but rather between the diplomats and the political echelon.
As you said before, you have encircled Gaza right now. You have advanced with your objectives. Are you prepared for a long war?
This war has no due date. The IDF has basically been given a green light to move forward, and no time that it needs to be completed. We realize that in the last 16 years that Hamas has governed Gaza as a terrorist fortress, building this huge amount of power, of terrorism, huge amount of influence against Israel, huge amount of munitions, huge amount of tunnels. To dismantle that is going to be a timely task. It's going to take time, but it needs to be done nevertheless. And the government has not given us a date that it needs to be done by, just a green light to go move forward and complete the mission.
Colonel Peter Lerner, thank you very much for this discussion.
Thank you. Good day.